Hope and Patience with Amelia Rope, a podcast about business, well-being and chocolate.
Hello and welcome to our latest episode of Hope and Patience. It's wonderful to have you here. One of the many treats with podcasting is getting the opportunity to chat with founders who I've always wanted to grab a coffee with to hear their stories and insights. With today's guest, I fell in love with their product about 16 months ago, and so having them on the show was a no-brainer. A few thought-provoking facts and questions on the topic of laundry before I introduce our fab guest. If every household in the UK turned their washing machine from 40 degrees C to 30 degrees C for 1 year, it would save CO2 emissions equivalent to powering 1,550 homes for a year. Did you know that every wash load we run can create up to 17 million tiny plastic fibres which goes into our rivers and oceans? Does your fabric conditioner contain animal fats, which some of the big brands disguise in their list of ingredients? You probably now have some idea about what our guest does. Our guest today is Paula Quazi, co-founder with Nick Green of the vegan, plastic-free cleaning detergent company Smol. Having recently raised €8.8 million and supplying over 250,000 homes, Smol is one of the fastest growing laundry brands and the leading detergent subscription service in the UK. The innovation with the products and the packaging is quite surreal. They also have a whopping 15,000 five-star FIFO and Trustpilot reviews under their belt too. So it's time to talk with our guest and hear their story. Welcome to H&P, Paula.
Hi, Amelia. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Now, Paula, you have achieved so many things in your life to date, including going from a marketing trainee at Unilever to be their first female marketing director on the board in the UK. When you were studying chemistry at school, did you have any idea of what you were going to be doing and the difference that you would be making?
I can honestly say no, I didn't. My kind of belief is always to do the things you enjoy, and I studied chemistry because it was the subject that I most enjoyed. A lot of people I know find that hard to believe because they don't like chemistry particularly, but it was my favourite subject, and that's why I went on to study it at university, and I enjoyed it an awful lot. But when I left university, I really wanted to get into understanding brands and consumers, and I was really curious about how the whole world of business worked, and I joined Unilever at that point.
And then, Paula, from Unilever, just tell our listeners the journey of how it led on to create Smol with you and Nick.
I worked at Unilever for 17 years, and I met Nick while I was at Unilever, and then we both left the business, and I ran a marketing consultancy and Nick ran a design agency, and we both got together again after about 10 years and developed Smol. So it wasn't an immediate thing from Unilever. We'd both had experiences outside of Unilever. And really the genesis to starting Smol was largely our own personal desire to do something good in this space, and a feeling of frustration within this whole category that the products weren't really good enough at a number of levels, particularly from an environmental point of view. And my background told me that we could reduce the amount of chemicals in these products, and some of the chemicals contained in these products weren't necessary any longer. And also we felt that buying eco-friendly products was always so expensive, so it was really limited to only the certain people who could afford it, and we felt that just wasn't fair or right. So we wanted to find a way to produce environmentally friendly products that were accessible to everybody and perform just like the big brands. So one of the problems within this category is that the performance of products was really quite inferior in comparison to the big brands, and we didn't believe that had to be true. So we spent nearly 2.5 years working on the product to try and get to a product which had significantly less chemicals within it and a much lower carbon footprint, but performed just as well, if not better, than the leading brands. And after 2.5 years, we got there. So it was an amazing kind of feeling to feel that you could do that and then achieve it as well. And at that point, we launched the brand Smol.
I mean, it appears that we were almost, I would say, thirsty for Smol because, I mean, did you and Nick factor into your business plan how rapid and powerful the pickup for Smol would be when you launched it?
No, so not at all. In fact, so we had some funds, our own funds, and a little bit of seed fund from really contacts and friends, and we thought we had enough money to try to make it work for about a year to 18 months. And that was based on the sort of customers that we thought we would gain based on other subscriptions in the UK market and how they had worked. So we thought we would be okay and manage for about 18 months. And what happened was that it went absolutely crazy from the minute we started. And within 12 weeks, we had already hit our annual target. So it was a very exciting ride, those first 12 weeks, because it also meant that Nick and I, who were doing everything at the time, so we were literally packing product, sending it off through the post, we were answering customer questions, we were putting ads up on Facebook, we were doing the whole thing ourselves, just the two of us. So in that very short period of time, things went crazy and we had to change things up very quickly in order to meet the demands. But obviously that was we're not moaning about that at all. That was a really positive experience, but quite a roller coaster.
And one of your things, Paula, with the product is that it's and the packaging is that your sort of eco credentials are incredible, and how you've developed it is sort of mind blowing. Would you share with the listeners a bit about the sort of sustainability side and the whole recycling and what you've developed for the products to arrive in and be made from?
Yes, of course. So when we started, as I said, it took 2.5 years to get the product right, and we were desperate to do the right thing in packaging terms too. So we worked really incredibly hard trying to find a way that was going to be convenient. You talked about our products being quite small, but our packs are pretty small as well, and that everything is packed very compactly so that it fits through the letterbox. So we have a tiny pack in comparison to the competitors. And in order to do that, we needed to use plastic because the product had to be moisture free, and it also had to be child lockable. But we weren't very happy about that at all. We went with the best plastic we could find. So we used 100% recycled plastic, and we used it at its lightest weight possible. And that was for the first probably about a year. And in that year we worked incredibly hard, particularly Nick, so with his design background, and Matt, our creative head in the business. They worked incredibly hard trying to find a way to get out of plastic, because we just just wouldn't accept that plastic was what we had to use. So the guys worked for all that time developing a pack that was fully cardboard, and we're the first people, we believe, in the world that package laundry capsules in cardboard packaging. We have developed a child lock, so products have to be safe for children. Obviously, they're coming through the letterbox, and this category of product needs to be safe for children anyway. So we developed a child lock locking box, which is patented. And we also developed a way to keep our capsules moisture free so that they're safe in transport, delivery and storage. And that took a long time, but we're so proud of what we have now, because our pack, as you say, is very unique. It's completely 100% plastic free. It's child lockable, it's moisture safe, and it's completely effective for delivery through the post and through people's letterbox.
And effective with cleaning clothes. That's the exciting thing.
Of course.
It's really good.
Of course.
It is really good.
Of course. And it's 100% recyclable, obviously, because it's cardboard.
But it's brilliant. Paula, you and Nick seem to have such complementary skill sets. You know, Nick with the packaging side, you with the marketing chemical side. It seems a sort of business marriage in heaven. I mean,
I don't know whether Nick would say that. No, I mean, the best thing is we've been friends for a long time. So we've been friends for nearly 25 years. And within that, you know each other very well. We are quite different. Nick has got a lot of marketing skills as well. Nick also is a qualified management accountant, so he's got a finance background. So between us, we have sort of all the skills that we need, but just not enough hours in the day. But yeah, it works really well.
How many people do you have working with you?
We have about 35 people with us now. We have just taken on our own warehousing and distribution as well. So we're taking on more people all the time. So that's another big chapter that we are learning how to manage. But it's been great, actually. It's really great being able to kind of look after the whole supply chain from start to finish, and be absolutely sure that everything that goes out to our customers is exactly as we want it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I used to have teams who made my chocolate, and the thing is that sometimes you'd find your recipe slightly tweaked under someone else's brand. So it means that you, with your distribution, you know your customers, nobody else knows them. And also your recipes and stuff are very tight because that's all in one part of your business, isn't it? It's not outsourced.
Exactly.
Paula, how has COVID-19 affected you as a business?
So when COVID hit in March, interestingly enough, it was a pretty stressful time for us because it was exactly when we changed over from our packaging. As I mentioned before, we changed from the recycled plastic packs that we had to fully cardboard packs. And in order to do that as a small business, we were running down stocks of the old packaging and building up stocks of the new packaging exactly over that week when we all heard that we had to go into lockdown. And obviously the impact of that was the way that we manufactured had to change. People had to obviously be safe and work in a safe way. We had to change the way people took their breaks, the number of people we had in the space that we had, etc. So it had a massive impact on us just managing that changeover. But also at that time, we had a 300% growth in terms of demand from new customers. It just went crazy. It was off the scale. So we have an ongoing increase in customers every single day. We have more customers coming in, trying us and staying with us. But what happened over that period when COVID hit, it was just astronomical growth that we had never seen, to such an extent that actually we had to stop marketing because we were worried that our stocks would not enable us to satisfy our existing customers. So we decided that we would stop any new customers over a period of time and only manage our own customers until we got things back on track. It didn't take very long, thankfully. It was about 2 or 3 weeks of pulling back. And during that time, we didn't short one single customer. We managed to maintain all of our customers, all of their products. It was just a bit tight. So it was a hair-raising few weeks for us. But having said that, we're very grateful that we were one of the businesses that didn't suffer on the other side of COVID-19. And we're very aware that we were very lucky having a product that is obviously all around hygiene and cleanliness is obviously very pertinent in this time. And also the fact that it comes through the letterbox and prevented people having to go to the shops, or indeed, a lot of shops were running out of stocks of these types of products. So we were very lucky from that perspective as well, because we managed, it's good for our business as opposed to many other people who suffered as a consequence of what happened during that time.
Have you ever had a mentor, Paula, or do you have a mentor at all?
I think Nick and I use one another as mentors. So it's quite curious, really. But we sort of complement each other a bit. When one of us is finding it tough, the other one is very good at getting that person through it, and vice versa. So to date, we haven't used a mentor, but I have lots and lots of friends and ex-colleagues that are always kind of on hand should I need somebody to talk to or discuss certain things with. And I've certainly used a lot of my previous contacts whilst developing Smol and building this business.
And what age were you when you set up Smol?
I think I was 49 when I set up Smol. Yeah, it might be 48. I can't remember. It's around then. I don't share my age very often. So, yeah, I'm 51
No, there's a
now.
reason.
So,
there's a reason why I'm asking you, Paula, because I look at things in chapters and people's chapters in life. And what I think is really refreshing is that you had a change when you were 48, 49. I also, with my chocolate business, changed at age 48 and 49. And the point of the age thing is, I think age in a way is irrelevant, but it's not for people who are now having to revisit their lives, potentially reevaluate what they're going to be doing for an income. And the point is that you can do it at any age. You don't have to just be in your 20s. You can be in your late 40s. Okay, one's energy is slightly less, but the point is it is possible. And I think that's really important for people to remember, is that you can, set up amazing businesses like Paula is doing with Nick and be, I hate that word, midlife. It depends what one's aim goal is. But, anyway, that was why I was asking your age.
It's absolutely true, though. No, it's absolutely true, because I have often, it is pretty hard work, I have to say. And sometimes you think, oof, did I do this at the right stage in my life? However, at this stage, real benefits are that you've had such a broad experience, and you're able to kind of take some chances and believe in yourself in a way that perhaps you might not have done in your 20s.
Absolutely.
And certainly, from our experience when we talk to VCs and funds, they have a lot of young founders. We're quite different to that. And I think we approach things very differently. And certainly, if I believe what they tell us, we kind of approach things with some real positives of maturity, the maturity brings in how we do things. And it's a lot of fun as well, because in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you've kind of learnt lots of things, and certainly in the world of marketing. However, the world has changed so dramatically in the last decade that I'm lucky enough to experience that. Whereas if I'd continued doing my old work, I don't think I would have experienced that change to quite the same effect. So I'm enjoying every moment and learning a lot. So again, for me, what's really important is to continue learning, and I'm loving the fact that I learn something different every day.
I know, isn't that amazing? I with the podcast, I'm learning a whole new world, and I love it. It makes you, in the morning, you just think, oh, I can't wait for the day, because you're going to be learning something. And I think that's the whole thing in life, is that we're here to learn and grow and develop as individuals. And sometimes people are slower to grow as an individual. I certainly really in my 30s was rebelling and doing loads of different stuff, and 40s sort of bedded down a bit. But it's really exciting. So Paula, who or what has been the greatest influence, and why?
It's not one person, but I think the whole what's going on in with climate change and the changes in our environment has been my greatest influence in trying to make a difference, and the belief that all of us can make a difference. Because I think sometimes you can feel quite overwhelmed with what's going on, and certainly if you listen to any of the kind of recent work, David Attenborough, any of the recent or read any books in that space, it does feel quite overwhelming, like none of us can really make a difference. Yet the reality is we can all make a difference. We can all do small things, and it's all that cumulative effect of all those things that make a difference. So it's many things that have kind of influenced me, and I wouldn't put it down to necessarily just one person or one thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it takes passion or drive to set up a business? There's a whole load of thing of people saying you're so passionate about it. I've always argued that it's more drive, but what are your thoughts on the words passion and drive?
I think it takes both. I don't know if that's a cop-out answer, but it definitely feels like you have to be passionate about trying to do something differently. And certainly when we set up Smol, we had a real passion and belief that we could do it. We could find a way of making these products that work just as well as the big brands, but had significantly less chemicals in them. And we could find a way of making them cheaper too. And we have this real kind of belief in that. But then drive is about continuing to do that every time you hit a pitfall, continuing to pick yourself up and go for it again. And running a business, you do need an awful lot of drive, because there's constantly, people talk about it being a roller coaster, and it really is. It's ups and downs all the time. And I think you have to have the resilience to get through that every day, and keep going with that kind of ultimate goal in mind. So I would say it was both things. Sorry, Amelia, is that a bit of a cop-out? Did you want me to answer one or the other?
But I don't think there's any right or wrong answer with these things. I think, we all have different sort of views on it. And part of what the podcast is about is just to hear different people's insights, because we all come to our conclusions because of what we've done or where we've been. I think so. I think it's an interesting thing. So no cop-out at all. How do you cope out of your comfort zone with uncertainty, would you say?
I think I use a lot of my friends and colleagues to help me in uncertain times. So I'm one of these people that I love sharing how things that I'm concerned about or worried about, and benefiting from other people's ideas and other people's thoughts around things. And then I kind of distill it all down and come up with a conclusion. So I'm not one of those people who kind of ponder on things alone. I'll use my environment and people around me to help me churn through thoughts and come back with a view or conclusion.
Do you believe if you visualize a dream that it can manifest? Have you done any of that with your business, sort of visualized, business plans, goals, but do you think that if you visualize your dream, it will manifest?
I do think you have to visualize it. You do have to kind of bring it to life, and believe that it can be possible. And what we've seen is, I would never have dreamt that we are doing what we're doing. From how we started off to literally every day. We started off with, the postman arriving at Nick's house and taking a sack full of products for a week or so. And to think that after 2 weeks, it was 2 sacks. After 3 weeks, it was 3 sacks. After, it just went on like that until we filled the little van that used to arrive. Now, every day we have several articulated vehicles arrive, which are filled to the brim with products going out on a daily basis. And did I dream that? I didn't quite dream that. I suppose I hoped that might happen. But every day when you achieve the next thing, you have a dream of what the next point could be. So we're now entering other markets, and I do dream of the same, of what we see in the UK will happen in those other markets as well. And I do dream that our innovations will work just as well as the last innovations, and that everybody will be making these small differences that we can add up together and go, wow, look what we've done. Look what we've achieved through all these people, behaving in the way that they would do otherwise, but just choosing us instead of another brand can make a big difference. So we calculate up how many kind of tons of plastic we save every month. We save 20 tons of plastic every single month by consumers choosing Smol instead of other brands. We save over 70 tons of chemicals by people making those choices. So it is really all of those little things that can add up, that we kind of dream about. If we had more customers or twice as many customers, wow, what we could achieve. And we slowly start to see those dreams become a reality. So it's I don't know if I've answered your question again. I think, yes, there is a combination of dreaming that we can achieve the same things, and we are starting to see those dreams become a reality.
It's amazing. What have you learned about yourself since you've had the business?
I've learned that I can put my hand to most things, pretty much anything, actually. And I have learned that there are ways of doing things the way you want to do them, as opposed to maybe how big organisations have taught you how to do things. So we've always believed that we wanted to have a relationship with our consumers, which has been very different from our careers. So in our careers where we work for big companies and you develop marketing campaigns and you talk to consumers in a very kind of old-fashioned way, where you gave the message and you didn't really listen to anything that came back, and you almost ignored anything that came back from consumers. And the way that we work is really every single consumer is an extended part of us as a business, and we listen to every single consumer point of view and discuss it, review it, decide whether it's something we can work on. And I think that's never happened in my career to date, and that's been quite a change in the way that we do business here. And in addition to that, also it's enabling everybody in the team, regardless of what their role, to have a role in anything that we do, or have a point of view that is listened to in every single thing we do, regardless of whether they're managing the fulfillment of orders on a particular day, or running the accounts and finances of the business, or dealing with customer service. Everybody has got a role to play, and it's a really nice feeling to work like that, because it prevents sort of silos building it up in organisations, and that's certainly what I've experienced in other companies.
So I know that Paula is eager to get on with her chocolate, but you've just got to have a few more quick fire round questions.
Mm-hmm.
Optimist or pessimist?
Optimist.
Introvert, extrovert or ambivert?
Extrovert.
Perfectionist or non-perfectionist?
I think I'm a perfectionist, but my business partner, Nick, is a supreme perfectionist. So he'd probably say I wasn't as much as him. But yes, I think I'm a perfectionist.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
So that's why the podcast is being recorded later, because I'm an early bird.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
That's what I'm very much alert, especially because we're heading for the chocolate break. So Paula's choice of chocolate today is Toblerone. Why have you picked Toblerone, Paula?
Because Toblerone, I've got such fond memories of Toblerone. Being a child at Christmas, it used to be the one thing that I would pull out of my stocking. The first thing out of the stocking was a Toblerone, and it had this sort of cachet around it. It was that sophisticated Swiss chocolate that I didn't normally see, that would only get at Christmas. So it kind of brings back huge memories, actually.
Well, tuck in.
Toblerone.
I'm going to open up my chunk.
I will.
Poor Paula, we had some problems with sound, and I don't think Paula's eaten very much today, so she is desperate. I've already snitched 3 chunks, not today, but I'm sorry, I bought it on the weekend and I just had to have a few to taste. So a little bit about Toblerone is that it was created in Switzerland in 1908 by the cousins Emil Baumann and Theodor Tobler. And if on the pack, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a hidden bear to the left of the T in the Matterhorn. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah, I've never noticed that before.
Well, I never noticed that either, but that was when I was researching it. And the other thing is that there's a bit of discrepancy, because these triangular shapes, I know, are quite controversial when they started shrinking them and making them wider apart. They were supposed to be based on the Matterhorn, but then Theodore's cousins or sons or relations anyway said that they thought, actually it was Theodore's sons who said that they thought the shape originated from a pyramid shape that dancers at the Folies Bergère had created. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
history.
Yeah, I know, real history. You tuck into that, and I'm just going to remind listeners that we have our new Hope and Patience chocolate bar that is only available to be won. So just keep an eye on the social media feeds to see where there are competitions, or subscribe to our newsletter, and you will be in with a chance of winning a bar. So Paula, you tuck into that and think about, what are your thoughts on the words success and failure? What do they mean to you?
So I think success is achieving your best, whatever that might be. making the most of everything, making the most of your abilities, making the most of your time, making the most of life, really. And providing that you've done that, I think we can all look back and say, yeah, we've been successful in our life. Failure is the opposite to that, just not making the most of those opportunities, however they present themselves to you in your life.
So while we're eating chocolate, which is not necessarily good for one's well-being, although I would argue it's good for one's mind and soul, we're going to have a quick few questions, Paula, about your well-being. One thing that I was reading up about is the power of laughing. And I remember years ago, I went on this laughing workshop, and it was all a bit sort of wooky at that age stage because people just weren't into that sort of thing. But it was really infectious, and you'd go along and you would literally just start laughing at someone else who was laughing too. And I have read that it's supposed to be really good and reduce the dreaded stress hormone cortisol. Do you think you laugh enough, Paula? I don't think I do, but do you?
I don't know. I probably would love to laugh more, but I do laugh a lot. And I think we as a business laugh a lot. We don't take things too seriously. So I think laughing should always be encouraged in any organisation, whatever you're doing. There's always something to laugh about.
How important is incorporating well-being into your day? I mean, do you manage to achieve it?
I do, because for me, well-being is also about connecting with people, and I have lots of opportunities to connect with people in the team, and that makes me feel happy and that makes me feel good. I think I found, certainly in the lockdown period, I found it quite tricky because we weren't connecting as much as we would normally do, or the connections that we had, because so many of our connections were online, one webcast after another. I found that more difficult to feel that I was well. But I think being able to connect more with other people, certainly in our warehouse and distribution centre, I'm more with other people, and that is good for my soul and my well-being. But also taking time out to spend it with friends and family is also important. So trying to get that balance right. I don't always get that balance right. Founding a business is quite busy, and it does take a lot of your time. But I do try and force myself to have some time out of that as well. Otherwise, I feel it. Actually, I do feel that I'm not functioning as well as I would do otherwise.
How does stress affect you physically and mentally?
The worst part of stress, I think, is I don't sleep very well. So that certainly is when I know I'm stressed, is when I'm not sleeping well, and so that's definitely how it affects me. But trying to get out into fresh air is important. We have a dog, and our dog is one of my de-stressors, because he's very good at just being able to take your mind off things, get outside and just take some fresh air in. And I think that's a great way. It's a very simple thing, but amazingly it does, certainly for me, it just clears my head and enables me to kind of get on and not ponder and fester on things that I might be worried about.
Yeah, dogs are amazing. They're magic little beings. Do you have your phone on or off at night, Paula? Do you switch it off at a certain time?
Off. Yes. I switch it off when I go to bed, not at a certain time, but when I go to bed. Yeah.
And when you said that you find it difficult sleeping when you're feeling pressurized, what do you do? Is there something that you do to then make yourself go to sleep, or do you just accept it thinking, well, tonight I'm not going to sleep particularly well?
No, I try to not be like that, and I normally try and stop work a little bit before I go to bed, if I can. So it's to have a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pause, break from something, do something different before I go to bed. So I kind of clear my head of the things that were bubbling around at that time. But I have to say, Amelia, I'm not good at this sometimes, so I wouldn't say that I've cracked it, but that's what I do try to do. More recently, I've started running, so that's something that I do to clear my head as well, and I really enjoy that. So that's quite a good technique at kind of clearing things down and sleeping well, because you've done some physical exercise as well.
You've got children, haven't you, Paula, too?
I have, yes. I've got two wonderful children, yes, but I've just become an empty nest this September as my youngest has gone off to university. So they're both off at university. And it's a very strange, I think we've had 3 weekends now, which have been all to ourselves, which has been very, very strange. Just getting used to the fact that they're not here anymore. And it's just my husband and I and the dog. But it's early days, but we are getting used to it, I think, slowly.
And Paula, have you got a book or a song that you'd like to share with the listeners at all?
The book that I would share is called The Great Disruption, and it's by an author called Paul Gilding, who I had worked with previously. He's a great climate activist, an Australian climate activist, and he's written this wonderful book about kind of what's happening in the world and ultimately the kind of, scary scenarios that could happen. But at the same time, he talks about how as a human race, we come together at times of crisis, and we will come together at this time of crisis too, and resolve things. And I think it's quite interesting when even thinking about this book, which I picked up to remind myself about last week, is the situation that we're in at the moment, and how I think, despite some of the issues and the fightings amongst different political groups, etc., I do think we're also coming together to fight the scenarios that we find ourselves in at the moment, and that kind of the kind of power of human nature when it is determined to make a difference and do something positive, I think is very overwhelming. And this book, The Great Disruption, is all about that. It's about how what's happening with climate change, but the fact that we as a race will come together and resolve it.
I'm definitely going to put that on my book list. Thank you very much for sharing that one. So with more and more people being prepared to rethink their working lives, what advice would you give people who are now thinking of setting up their own business?
I think if you've got a good idea, I would encourage you to go for it and to try it, and and you'd be surprised at some of the things that you may think need huge amounts of money or they need different resources. You'd be amazed what you can do with very little to try things in today's world. So some of the things that we've been able to do, you couldn't do in a pre-digital world, and it's now everything is possible. So I would encourage people to give it a go, because you'll never know unless you try. And I think the worst thing, coming back to that success or failure is having a great idea and then just not having the courage to take it on. Just give it a go. And if it works, it will be amazing. And if it doesn't, it will be amazing too, because you've tried. So I would encourage anybody who's got a good idea, who's sitting there thinking, shall I give it a go, to just go and try it.
Very good advice. Finally, Paula, where have you had to have hope in your life and also patience?
I think in my children, maybe, is hope that they would find the right path. You can only, with your children, I think you can only encourage them to do the things that you think is right and proper, and hope that they will kind of find their own path, and for that to be a good one. And I feel very lucky because my children, I think, have taken good paths, and so far so good. So there's hope for you, because I think you can never. You never know, they're the most wonderful things in your life as a parent, and you want them to not suffer and have good lives, but you just hope that will be the case. And what was the other thing?
Patience.
Hope and patience, and probably patience with the children as well, in enabling them to find that way, find the route that is right for them, and not interfere, and just kind of wait and let them find their own way. I think is probably children, around both hope and patience.
So where can the listeners find Smol?
So Smol's available online at smolproducts.com, or you can find us through Instagram or Facebook. And anyone who joins us, certainly in the next several months, is able to have a free trial of both laundry, either bio or non-bio, or even both, and also the dishwash tablets, just by signing up and letting us have your details.
And they just pay postage, don't they, for that?
Yes, that's right. So it's £1 for postage and packaging. The capsules and tablets are free.
And you will be hooked. So thank you, Paula, so much for coming on the show. It has just been wonderful to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Before I go, it's time for a film recommendation, not a book this episode, and the quote. The film is from an inspirational friend of mine, a leadership and life coach, Hamish Mackay-Lewis. He recommended this film, and I am doing exactly the same to you. Why? The multi-award winning down-to-earth film blew me away in every sense. It shares wisdom, global insights from earth keepers and a family's exploration of life, and it really is fantastic. So do check out Down to Earth. And the quote is by Meister Eckhart: "Be willing to be a beginner every single morning." A huge thank you for finding the show. I hope you enjoyed the chat. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest episode. And if you're enjoying the show, it would be truly fab if you could rate and review it. Any book recommendations, quotes, songs can be found in the show notes and on the website too. Until the next time, however tough the times get, keep that inner sparkle you have.
Hope and Patience with Amelia Rope. Join the conversation at hopeandpatience.co.uk. Find Amelia on Facebook at Hope and Patience, or on Twitter and Instagram at Amelia_Rope.